My name is Jacob Thomas, and this story is about me, my wife Bitsy, and several $100 million. I looked at my watch. They were lying on the table next to my favorite chair. 12:25 p.m. The clock is on the table because at 1 o'clock someone will come to tell me it is time for me to leave. They won't let me take anything with me. These last weeks have been a real battle of wills. Our love affair, looking back, I should have known better. We studied in the same English class in our first year, although we did not meet in person. The professor announced that I received a perfect score on the midterm exam. After the lesson, this stunning blonde came up to me and said that she had second results and she was unhappy with it. I've seen her many times. First of all, she was dazzling. Not only beautiful, but also elegant, always well-dressed, a person who stands out in the crowd. And she had a retinue. We'll talk about them later. This setting would have caught my attention no matter who their loyalties were. Who even has henchmen in college? You see, it was Bitsy, or Elizabeth Fitzgerald Fontaine. Her father is the patriarch of the Fontaine family. Yes, those same many billionaires. Her mother is Margaret, the muffin of the family, although she prefers Muff Fitzgerald, one of the Fitzgerald oil barons. We both studied with the same goals, but with completely different support. I had a good scholarship, student loans, and a lot of work. She had a room full of money from her family. We met, except for a 20-second meeting last year in the first semester of the second year in a class on American literature. She surprised me. She knew and remembered me. Jake, you really understand the material. It seemed strange to me, without a greeting, without any conversation starter. What should I have said? I chose, "Excuse me, do we know each other?" Bitsy Fontaine, she paused, as if I should recognize the name. Although I knew, I saw no reason to lean over and kiss her hand, if that was what they did to American nobility. Oh, I see, that must mean something. She looked puzzled, as if she couldn't believe that anyone wouldn't know Bitsy Fontaine. No, I think not. Listen, in this course, there will be a project. We need to compare two novels of our choice. I didn't like that she had chosen me in advance, so I replied, "Our choice? You speak as if we will already be partners. And how do you know there will be a task?" Jake, I have resources. I don't compete like others. My people are collecting information for me. Trust me, you will benefit from becoming my partner. Well, if it's true, and if there's a mission, and we have the opportunity to be partners, I'm sure we will. I turned and left. She later told me that she was stunned. Nobody ever rejected her. Indeed, the professor was just about to announce that we needed to choose partners for the project. Bitsy interrupted him and said that she had already chosen her partner. The professor laughed and said, "Miss Fontaine, this doesn't surprise me, but let's let everyone discuss this, and on Friday you will say who your partner is." "I would prefer," she continued. "Friday," the professor finished. When the lesson ended, several people approached me, but I was intrigued by Miss Fontaine and her entourage. Remembering her proposal, I asked, "Do you still want to be my partner?" "Like you have a choice." I turned and started talking to one of those who approached me. Bitsy was right behind me, apologizing. "Oh, Jake, I'm so sorry. I don't know why I behave this way. I admit I am spoiled. Sometimes I forget that I am not the center of the universe. Forgive my rudeness." I raised my finger to let her know I was talking to someone else. I agreed to partner with whoever I was talking to and then turned back to Bitsy. She started again. "I'm so sorry, that was rude. Will you forgive me?" "Certainly, I've already forgotten." "Are we partners then?" "No, I accepted another offer, sorry." I quickly left, seeing no point in arguing. The next day my partner approached me. Jake, do you have a minute?" "Of course, what happened?" "I decided to go with another partner. I hope you can find someone else." He said this as if he wanted to say something else. "I see. How much did she pay you?" He smiled widely. "I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm a poor student. I only have a little over $1,000 in my account." $1,000. Tell me if I ask if Bitsy offered you money. Nobody offered me anything, and I hope you quote that. I smiled, nodding in understanding. Damn, bad precedent. On the other hand, I helped a stranger earn $1,000. There is something good in that. This is not my circus, not my monkeys. Let's see what the next move will be. Friday came, and I still hadn't heard anything. The class began, and the professor asked how many already had partners. Almost everyone raised their hands, which made him smile. Okay, now let's ask it another way. Who is left without a partner? My hand was the only one that went up. The professor looked around the audience, noticed Bitsy, and asked, Miss Fontaine, it seems this young man is left without a partner. Would you like to become his partner? Certainly, she said cheerfully. I wondered if she paid everyone else. The professor looked at me. I wanted to ask, is there another option? But instead he said, of course, in as even a tone as possible. After the lesson, she said, I'm sorry it happened like that. At least it worked out in the end. Did it work? I bet things always work out for you, I said. I decided that further discussion would only lead to her starting to say things I didn't want to hear. I can't believe it. We got along so well that my indignation shocked her. What? Can't you believe what? Her face almost expressed panic. You are incredible. We started out so badly, and I thought you would be completely different. You listen to what I say, argue with me based on intellect, not on strength. I never thought we could be a good team, but we became a great team. She beamed. Thank you, kind sir. I enjoy working with you too. Everyone else is afraid of me. They give in to me. I laughed in her face. Yeah, Bitsy, why do you think this is happening? She laughed too. Well, just because I have helped to stack the cards in my favor doesn't mean. I interrupted her. You understand that this is not so, but okay, it doesn't matter. You don't scare me. But we both know that this whole retinue exists to scare anyone who wants to compete with you. Why aren't you afraid? Her question was curious. She really wanted to understand it. Bitsy, I'm here because of myself. I've earned scholarships, I'm working, and I'm striving for success. I don't care if you succeed too, but this has nothing to do with me. Oh, but it matters. Life is a zero-sum game, she said, but I saw doubt in her eyes. No, that's not true. Very often both sides can win. Moreover, if you seek the other party's defeat instead of seeking mutual gain, there is too much to lose. I paused, seeing that she was considering my words, looking worried. My family wouldn't say that. Bitsy, they're rich, but that doesn't mean they're always right. She smiled, seeming to accept my words. I decided to change the subject. I would really like to get to know you better. Would you like to go on a date with me? She looked worried. Damn, maybe I misunderstood her. She noticed that my face had changed. Oh, sorry, of course. I would love to go with you. I was just thinking, do you mind if I pay for our dates? Why should I be against it? Jake, I want to get to know you too. But if we have any chance of a relationship, we need to do what I love. And frankly, you won't be able to afford it. It was strange to hear someone directly say that I couldn't afford it. What are we talking about? Well, our first date should be unforgettable. I suggest going into the city and having dinner at a French restaurant, Tour Doré. Do you like French cuisine? I snorted. I like fries. Does that count? She laughed and then shook her head. Jake, if we can be anything more than friends, we're both going to have to change. I hope the changes will not be unnatural, but they will be serious. For example, Tour Doré, the Tower of Gold, is a reference to the restaurant Tour d'Argent, the Tower of Silver in Paris. Tour d'Argent has been the best restaurant in the world for 5 or 6 centuries. Our dinner with wine will cost about $2,000. I looked at her. There were no words in my head. I couldn't afford to throw away $1,500 even in a month, even in a whole semester. Jake, talk to me. I'm confused. I understand you're not trying to impress me. But this is a little hard to accept, for some reason. The point is not that you can spend that kind of money, but that this money means nothing to you." She nodded. "They really don't mean much, perhaps nothing. On the other hand, I'm used to doing what the money allows me to do. For my 16th birthday, my mom and dad and I flew to Paris. We stayed in a suite at the Ritz. We visited the Louvre, Les Orangeries, and had dinner at the Tour d'Argent. I tried to give an example for comparison. My mom and stepdad agreed to pay for my car insurance while I lived at home, and I thought it was a great gift. Jake, this was a great gift. I'm not criticizing or bragging. I want us to understand how different our lives are. Your parents are no less generous than mine. They just don't have the same means to express their generosity. Think about it. Your parents probably had to sacrifice something to pay for insurance. Mine, no. But just like yours, they found a way to make my day memorable. We returned to the city in her limousine. I was amazed. I ordered a bottle of wine for 1800. She taught me how to taste it when the sommelier brought it to us. I ate snails and pressed duck. I even learned to raise my hand and say, "Eledition, s'il vous plate," even though I couldn't even pay the bill. Thank you, Jake. It was a wonderful evening. Wait, Bitsy, you paid for everything. Why are you thanking me? Jake, I didn't donate anything, and you had to learn to behave in a situation in which you understood nothing, and you did great. I am grateful that you made this evening unforgettable for me. You know, this is my first time in a limousine, I told her. First time in a limousine sounds good, she said with a sly smile. Her hint was very clear, and I turned to her, preparing to pull her towards me. Hush, Tiger, not on the first date. But remember this, I've always dreamed of making love on this seat. Remember? I remembered, and we did it. It was intoxicating. I wasn't just dating someone, I was learning how to live a good life at the same time. And what a life! What the hell is this? I looked at the computer screen, which displayed the names and titles of books of all our classmates. Oh, I asked my team to gather all the information about what our competition is working on. We can use this. Why would we use this? Jake, I want our work to be the best. Me too, and I'm sure that if we put everything we have into it, it will be the best. Probably, but why not play it safe? Because it's a bad habit. Because it shows a lack of self-confidence. Because, Jake, I don't compete like everyone else. I don't leave anything to chance. Well, I disagree. If you're going to look at what others are doing and improve by 20% to make sure you win, you're devaluing our efforts. I will not participate in this. You will. I'm not going to argue, and he was not going to give in. We had already been on 5 dates and were now close. It didn't bother me that she was paying, but I couldn't accept her win at all costs approach. I decided to write my own analysis. We continued to work together and discuss the project, but I did not look at her work, and she did not look at mine. The day for the work to be submitted has arrived. I turned in our joint paper with our names on it. Although she didn't write anything in it, what I wrote was the result of our collaboration. After the next lesson, the professor called us into his office. I have 2 versions of the work, both claiming to be written by you. Which one do you want to take? I pointed to mine, she pointed to hers. I'll only take one, he looked at us sternly. Bitsy spoke first. Well, Professor, I insist that the job I chose is ours, and I will take all measures so that you accept it. Bitsy looked at him with a cold gaze. I can't quite describe this expression's serious indifference, as if it wasn't worth her time, and yet she was 100% sure that she would win. Mr. Thomas? The professor turned to me for consent. I agree that she will win this argument. This is her job. I didn't take part in it. My work is a different document. Well, this document is not being considered. Then I'll probably fail the course. I advise you to reconsider your decision. Professor, I can't share the credit for something I didn't have a hand in. I apologized and left, leaving the 2 of them bewildered. Showing off is overrated. I thought I would feel bad, but I wasn't going to share the credit for her work. I was sure, or rather, I really hoped that she would not leave me to my fate. The phone rang her ringtone. Yes, I replied, showing that my enthusiasm was at zero. We have a date tonight. She was unusually cheerful. It won't. We're going to turn in your work. Bitsy, I don't think it matters anymore. You were ready to leave me to the mercy of fate if you hadn't achieved your goal. Ah, Jake, you did the same thing. I just have more power than you, but you also said that everything will be your way or not at all, and you wrote your work. The professor said your work is better than mine. Don't be so stubborn, I'll make it up to you. We were young. She was right, we were both stubborn. Besides the difference in capabilities, how was I different from her? Making amends meant something extraordinary to her, so it never occurred to me to ask what she would have done if the professor had liked her work better. I raised my watch 12:42. Meeting her parents should have been a hint for me, but I was young, in love, and had no intention of marrying her parents. Calm down. I should be the one who's nervous. You're not the guy my parents think I should date. Bitsy got ready wearing only her panties. Despite this, she was so excited that her nervousness caught my attention more than her half-nakedness. Oh, what kind of guy would suit them? It was unpleasant. I wanted to hear an answer. A rich business student, of course. It would be stupid if I chose business. Why did you mention this? Bitsy and I had no problem with her paying, but it looks like I'll hear that the older Fontaines won't be as open. Well, because I was raised with certain expectations all my life. Our family has acquired wealth and power, and I, as an only child, must continue these traditions. Wealth and power are your family's goals? Are you serious? She looked at me in surprise. We have achieved so much. You're not one of those who believes that money is the root of all troubles, are you? This is a wrong quote. It seems to be from the Bible, and it goes like this. The love of money is the root of all troubles. It's just a play on words. She looked at me, waiting for an explanation. Wealth is a wonderful thing. It has allowed us to do amazing things. But money is just a means. It's how you use them that matters. You do it yourself. She thought about it. Well, of course, enjoying wealth is part of it. She paused, thinking, but making money is another matter. My family taught me to be generous and enjoy our money. But in business, there are no friends. There is no generosity. There is only the winner and everyone else. We have already talked about this. I don't agree with this. I'm surprised that you think so, but let's not argue. We love each other. We have no problems. But if you ever side with business against me, we could have problems. Don't worry, it won't happen. Let's see. She laughed and playfully hit me on the shoulder. I love you. You make me think. You make me feel different. I'm glad we're going to meet my parents. Let me ask again, what about your father's plans? My dad is a competitive person. I'm sure you won't argue with him when you first meet. I don't think he's after money. He has a framed quote hanging in his office. Winning is not everything. That's the only thing that matters. Vince Lombardi. It's funny. I smiled at her. Lombardi said it, but it actually came from another coach. He just borrowed it. It doesn't matter, Jake. Your father plays for high stakes. I think defeat is unacceptable for him. This is understandable. Although I didn't quite believe that the end justifies the means. Mom, this is Jake. Jake, this is my mom, Muffin. Mrs. Fontaine, it's so nice to meet you. Fitzgerald Fontaine, I have never seen cold literally dripping from my lips. Apparently, she wasn't ready for me to call her Muffin. On the other hand, Dad, this is Jake. Jake, this is my dad, Thomas. Mr. Fontaine. What kind of Mr.? Young man, call me Tom, please. I've heard so much about you. At this point, the waiter came to our table, and my new friend Tom switched to a discussion of some Grand Cru and beluga caviar. I watched him with admiration. From the corner of my eye, I noticed that Bitsy was saying something to Muffin, and quite harshly. I only heard the end of their conversation. He is my only choice, so either you accept it, or I will stop accepting you. Muffin smiled tightly, as if she had just swallowed a bitter medicine, and hoped that it would help her and not suffocate her. At the same time, I watched Tom, who seemed completely engrossed in the discussion of wine and caviar, but at the same time, judging by the expression on his face, he heard every word spoken between Bitsy and her mother. From that moment on, Maffin suddenly softened, and Tom, although looking friendly, seemed distant. He smiled and answered questions, but his smile seemed forced, like that of a person who was simply being polite. After dinner, Bitsy went up to her mother, hugged her, and kissed her on the cheek, whispering a few words to her goodbye. As I extended my hand for a farewell handshake, Maffin suddenly pulled me close and said, "It was nice meeting you, Jake. From now on, just call me Maffin," she smiled. But this smile did not reach her eyes. She and her father just hugged. He said he was glad that she was so in love. He was happy for her. I shook his hand. "It was a pleasure, sir. Thank you for a great dinner." "No, sir, just Tom." It was warm, well thought out, and I was sure insincere. He saw Mrs. being scolded for her lack of warmth, so he showed it himself. His fight will come from a dark corner when I will not wait, and he will be confident of his victory. A wild thought came to my mind. Why don't we go to New York and see the show? "Oh, that would be wonderful. Do you know what's coming?" I didn't know. She said she would find out and asked if I would also like to go to the Philharmonic concert, since we both loved classical music. She said she would arrange everything. She typed for about a minute on her assistant app. The next day she said that we would leave on Friday for the week, return early on Monday morning, so that we could make it to her lesson at 10 a.m. My first lesson on Mondays started at 11 o'clock. "What time does our flight leave?" She looked at me as if I lived in another century. I told them we would have breakfast before we arrived, and we didn't want any services during the flight. "We are expected at 9 a.m. Have you ever heard of the Club on Top?" We boarded a private jet, took off, joined the high-altitude club, landed, and transferred to a limousine. We were taken to the Carlisle Hotel. We were greeted by a woman who showed us to our suite. They didn't say anything about luggage. The hotel employee, whoever she is, who knows what title they give to the manager who takes you to your room without checking in, explained what amenities the hotel has and left. We had a huge two-bedroom suite. "Which one do you want?" I asked, somewhat surprised. "I don't care. We'll stay in the one you like best. I just asked for a double room for the sake of appearances." I looked around. Beautiful flowers, a complement of champagne, fresh fruit, and an extra bedroom. I've been increasingly exposed to this luxury, but I'm still not sure if I'll ever get used to it. We were in our chosen bed, releasing the sexual tension that had built up in the 70 minutes since the high-altitude experience. Bitsy said, "Let's go have lunch." The clock at the hotel said 10:23. A couple of quick words were typed into the assistant app. We got up and decided to shower separately. Taking a shower together is effective, but not quick. We were going for lunch, not dinner. It took her a while to get ready, and a little after noon we left the room. We walked out the door, and a limousine was waiting for us. Without words, we were taken to the 21 Club restaurant. The master met her by name. We sat down at the table, and the waiter asked what we wanted to drink. She replied, "Some of Daddy's whiskey." For some guests, the restaurant keeps a bottle of their favorite drink in the wine cellar. By the way, the cellar houses cases of various wines purchased in honor of the birth of a child, which are served at his or her 21st birthday party, hence the name 21 Club. Her birthday was just 3 months away. The whiskey arrived, and I raised a toast. "Bitsy, I love you so much." Back to the hotel and back to bed. I'll probably kill myself from overwork, but someone has to do it. Then we hugged and talked. "You're afraid to ask me to marry you, aren't you?" The question did not surprise or confuse me. Yes, probably so. It bothers me that I might be seen as a gold digger. Well, look at it this way. We love each other, and I'm not going to live like a tramp. Although she never specified, I would guess that her idea of a tramp is someone with an annual income measured in 1 comma, so your ego should be satisfied. Besides, you don't seem to dislike this lifestyle all that much." I laughed. "When you're right, you're right. Can I at least buy you an engagement ring?" She thought for a minute. "This is important. I know." She stood up and went to the bathroom. Her naked body from behind was a real beauty. She looked great on the way back, too. "That's it. You will put some money in the envelope, as much as you would spend on a ring. We'll go pick out a ring. I'll choose and give them the envelope. If the ring costs more, I'll cover the difference." I thought, "Will you marry me?" She screamed with joy and wanted to celebrate it in bed again. I told her it was impossible. It turns out I was wrong. By the way, we had to go to Boston to get the ring. Some jeweler was involved with someone. I forget the details. There were no price tags in the store. I don't know how she managed that. She chose a ring. I handed over the envelope. The owner looked at the money. Cautiously, she didn't see how much I paid. I didn't see how much it cost her. People probably covered the difference. The owner indicated that the envelope contained the correct amount. Who is fooling whom? I would have needed a suitcase rather than an envelope, but it created the illusion that I had bought a ring. We celebrated her birthday and wedding announcement at 21 Club. It was a small event. By small, I mean that we occupied a little less than half of the restaurant. Dad was busy shaking hands with rich and famous guests. Muffin sat and people came up wishing her well as if she were a queen or first lady. Tom greeted me warmly before ignoring me completely. When everyone had gathered, Tom introduced me to the audience. He did not say these words, but in the presentation it sounded that I should be introduced to the crowd, but not to anyone personally. Bitsy thought I was paranoid. Our wedding, which cost more than the GDP of some mid-sized Central American countries, was magnificent. The fact that the president and first lady were present made it even more significant. But the day was made special thanks to the beautiful blonde who won my heart. My mother and stepfather were delighted, but everyone treated them with respect and warmth. We weren't close. My father died when I was 6. Mom remarried and started a second family. She loved me, helped me get into college, but now she was completely devoted to her new family. When it comes down to it, no matter how much is spent, a wedding bonds two people together for life. My father-in-law gave me the travel itinerary as a wedding gift. Of course, he and Maffin paid for us to enjoy this route. We honeymooned in Maui, Paris, and Bora Bora. What can I say? Although our honeymoon was longer and more exotic than most, we did what all newlyweds do. I don't know if there's a record for the number of times a young couple can make love in 6 weeks, but we were clearly close to this. Again, you get used to it quickly. There was always an invisible helper somewhere nearby. We didn't plan anything, didn't pay anything, and everything that came to our mind was fulfilled. Honestly, as a concerned newlywed, there weren't many things that came to mind that required planning with help. But still, so we were just your average newlyweds moving into our penthouse in New York. She went to work for her father. I worked from home writing a great American novel. Bitsy looked forward to talking to me every evening when she returned home. We talked about her work, but most of all, we discussed my book. She felt that I wanted to contribute, and our discussions made my writing my contribution. I loved historical fiction and chose a rags to rags and backstories set during the Great Depression. A lot of research had to be done to make the book the best it could be. Our marriage was a real romance. We never quarreled, yes, we argue sometimes, but we never stood on opposite sides and attacked. I was always afraid that when it came to a real fight, we would have problems. You see, I've seen her fail in business. I heard the front door open. I didn't have to wait long. 3 strong men headed into my office. "You are here illegally. And good afternoon to you too, or the 3 of you, as the case may be." I smiled at my play on words. It had the same effect as smiling at the pride of lions. "Empty your pockets," said the second thug. They were specialized. Each had their own role in removing the unwanted husband. They checked everything I had. They left me a driver's license and $300 bills. The second goon reported, "Your prenuptial agreement says you had $284.54 in your account when you got married." We rounded in your favor. They took my wedding ring and watched. Hey, that was my watch, I objected. It says here, a driver's license, 3 Benjis, and a light jacket. The third thug was an accountant in this group. They picked out a coat for me and took me outside. There was a car at the entrance. I was told to sit in it. You can go wherever you want, the last words of one of the thugs. I didn't see who said it. We set off. Take me to the corner of Main Street and 3rd Avenue, I asked. I was surprised. She was in intimidation mode. But I didn't think that my exit would be exactly like this. As we drove, I thought about her intimidation mode. Failure was rare because her family knew how to stay on top. When you win, there is no reason to worry. But if you lose, revenge should be cold, and complete this increases the chances of winning in the future, as she explained to me. Bitsy tried to buy a startup. I don't know the details, but this startup was so successful that it had several buyers. The other company ended up winning. Bitsy was furious and went into intimidation mode. She spent a significant amount of money, hiring a couple of key employees of the startup and buying the land that the company was going to use, all of which did not bring profit to her, but caused the startup to fail. She bought a failing company, brought back key employees, and they became successful again. Destructive behavior in order not to lose. As any aggressor would say, the world needed a lesson about the cost of interfering in its affairs. She knew I didn't approve and never told me about such things. What bothered me was that I learned this from her father. He was always too friendly towards me, but wanted nothing to do with me. We both played golf, but never on the same course or at the same time. He was nice in person, but avoided spending time with me. He seemed to me like a man who had learned to smile, shake your hand, and at the same time stab you in the back. I'm sure he would also rob you with or without 2 hands. Bitsy didn't see it. Early in our relationship, Bitsy and I talked about the love of money. Her father was supposed to win, and money was a trophy on the wall for him. Apart from golf, dinners, or other entertainment for potential victims, clients, he did nothing. To me, he was a poor man struggling every day to maintain a life that no one else would want to live. Bitsy and I got along great. No matter what happened at her job, she left it behind when she came home to me. We decided to wait until we were 30, which was another 5 years. I wondered why we should wait. How was your day? She always asked. And she didn't just ask, but it was really important for her to hear the answer. I had enough material to write 10 books. I was close to finishing the draft. My problem was that the first version of the book was over 800 pages. I had to cut it in half. You know, everything is fine. If I took out the Cleburne family, it would be about 500 pages. But Bob Cleburne warns James of the impending collapse. We discussed this for some time, but tonight I wanted to talk about her. Let me pour you some wine. I opened a bottle of Latter Montrachet, her favorite wine, almost every evening. Great, I want to change into my dirty clothes. I couldn't help but laugh. She called her very everyday things dirty. They were some designer's clothes and cost more than many people's entire wardrobes, but to her they were dirty. She made herself more comfortable. I looked at her. She was beautiful. Bitsy, I was thinking, what if we have a baby now instead of waiting until you're 30? She started talking, but looking at me, she realized that I was serious. I want to build a solid foundation in the business before. Define it. What does solid foundation mean to you? How would you describe your work with your latest acquisition? She smiled widely. You're right. I never expected to be at this level. The other day, I thought that there would be no problems with kindergarten. You're at home. We could hire a nanny. Besides, think of how much fun we'll have trying. I was shocked. This made my year. I thought we were going to argue about this. No, we love each other so much. This is a great idea. I hate taking these pills. I took the last one this morning. I snapped out of my thoughts and looked out the window. The driver was driving somewhere I didn't recognize. This is not where I asked to go. The driver almost growled in response. When he said you could go wherever you wanted, he was talking to me, not you. We drove until we came to the darkest place I had ever seen. There were two guys standing on the sidewalk. The car stopped and the doors unlocked. The men on the street opened the door. One grabbed my hand and pulled me outside. When the two thugs got into the car, I heard one of them say, "Finally, otherwise I thought we would have to shoot back." I went. Based on the position of the sun, I assumed that I was going north. "How was your day?" She asked this first thing every time she returned from work, still trying to get it down to 500 pages. We chatted back and forth, asking each other about our day while I poured her usual glass of Montrachet. I tried to find some of these conversations for my book. Two people who care about each other often talk about everyday things, but the small details of life don't seem so everyday to people who are in love. What about this new collaboration? I was wondering, during the entire time of our marriage, she had never worked with another company. "I don't know why Daddy wants to do this. Banky is acting like a complete jerk." Banks? I knew that her father wanted her to marry Buford Randolph, known to a few as Banks. But the rebellious daughter would never go on a date with him. Yes, that same Banky. The pride of the Randolph family, well, at least according to Bunky. "You never liked him." "Why exactly?" "Dad forced it on me. I didn't like it. And then there's the fact that Bunky probably has the highest opinion of himself on the planet. I would argue that he is an atheist because he cannot believe that there is something higher than himself." I laughed. "Does your father know that you don't love him? Or does he think you rejected him because of him?" "I'm sure Dad thinks his pressure was the reason Bunky failed." "Interesting." Now she laughed. "Why is this interesting?" "Your father is the most calculating and shrewd man I have ever met." This made her angry. Annoyed is too strong a word, but she was annoyed when I spoke ill of dear Daddy. "What do you mean calculated?" She added a scornful smile. Her smirk showed that she didn't like it, but at the same time she was joking. "I don't mean anything bad, but your father is a keen observer, and he constantly evaluates his own conclusions. So prudent and insightful. Of course, he's still teaching me, but he does this with others and not with his beloved daughter." Having said this, she flirtatiously batted her eyelashes and swayed her hips. "With you most of all." She looked at me, thoughtful, but said nothing. Every evening she came back more and more irritated by what Bunky was doing. And then nothing. When I asked, she answered, "Life is too short." Her mood and words matched, but it still bothered me. I wanted to make love. She said she needed to take a shower first and get cleaned up. I asked why. She said she wasn't clean. It was clear why she felt that way. I was furious. "Thanks." She just sighed. "It was a business. Accept it." She didn't apologize. This was uncharacteristic of our marriage, where she was always quick to ask for forgiveness. She never apologized in business. She did what she did, and the world adjusted or paid the price. "Bitsy, I'm not one of your assistants. You knew that I would not tolerate betrayal. I will file for divorce." "Jake, I'm so sorry. I would never cheat on you. Never. You know that. I didn't try to hide it. I had the opportunity to win him over to my side. It was like buying him dinner." "Who told you that using your body as a negotiating tool is different from cheating?" She had a panicked look. "Jake, that never even occurred to me. I think, although no, I know that you won't accept it. I'm really sorry. Please forgive me this time, and it will never happen again. I swear." "Bitsy, it's not just oops. I don't." "Jake, we agreed a long time ago that my work and yours are not entirely compatible. All this is about the love of money and the like. This part of me and you have never crossed paths. Please be reasonable and forgive me this time. I swear it was a mistake. One-time use won't happen again." She was right. I didn't like the business side of them. We avoided talking about it, except in general terms, no details. She was also right that she did not consider her action to be treason. Forgiveness would mean that such incidents would no longer happen. Well, that's just stupid. She's not ready to lose, not in business, not with me. This will be repeated as many times as I allow. I know you want to believe it, Bitsy, but you are who you are. I will file for divorce. No, you won't, Jake. It would be humiliating for me, and I will not allow it. Humiliating? You forget where you are. You are at home, not at work. You married me because I wasn't impressed with your crap. I am who I am, and I will not allow my wife to cheat. She assumed a cold, businesslike expression. Jake, this is not up for debate. We're not getting divorced. Have you forgotten about the prenuptial agreement? If you file for divorce, you will leave with nothing. Bitsy, stop it. Just fucking stop. I know what I signed. I know who you are. You promised me fidelity and broke that promise. I'll file for divorce. I will apply as soon as I can. Her gaze became icy. It was something new and very disturbing. I have seen her behave this way in business and in her relationships with other people, but never with me. Never. This was the first thing we installed. Time has passed. No good lawyer took my case. Her aides have already contacted them. Conflict of interest. I learned of one old man, Don Benton, who was no longer in active practice. He agreed to a large advance and advised me on the steps to take. I heard her enter. How was your day? Always the same. Even now. I just looked at her. She was pouring herself a glass of Montrachet, clearly getting ready. While she was doing this, I retreated to my office. Before I had time to get properly settled, she joined me. Do you have a minute? She asked, as if we were about to discuss today's dinner menu. Of course, what happened? To hell with her. If she wants to play casual, I can play too. Today, I was served with divorce papers. Do you remember what I told you? Now she started to irritate me. We'll act like it's just some kind of business agreement. Why do you doubt my memory? Glad you mentioned it. Yes, I doubt it. I clearly told you that if you file for divorce, I will destroy you. I'll leave you on the street with no chance of recovery. Surely you haven't forgotten what I said? No, I haven't forgotten. So you doubt my sincerity? No, I have no doubt. Dad warned me about you. He said that you will never grovel. I told him that we love each other and he should stay away. I won't allow myself to be humiliated in front of my father. Prudently, I didn't add anything. Well, then we're done. Withdraw your application by. She glanced at her Patek Philippe watch. Let's say by 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Otherwise, I will fulfill my promise. Anything else? What are we having for dinner? I continued my game. I asked the staff to cook lobster. I know it's your favorite. The condemned person is entitled to delicious food and all that. I'm looking forward to it. Nice conversation. To hell with it. If she was willing to resort to scorched earth tactics to avoid defeat, I would inevitably be in pain. Youth and love are never synonymous with wisdom. And here I am. Although, to be honest, I don't know where exactly. Judging by the people I saw around me, I didn't have much time left to go. It turned out it was about half an hour, give or take. I don't have a watch. This is bad. If I return to civilization, the money will run out in a few days. I'm sure she won't let me work. We'll have to come up with something. Although at least it's spring and I won't freeze to death. Despite my dark thoughts, I knew that things would probably get worse. I was just beginning to realize that 3 cups of coffee is not the best start for a homeless person, as, "Hey guys, how are you?" said the man, who looked like a living advertising poster about what an illegal substance does to people. Unfortunately, I got robbed and had nothing left but my driver's license, I said, turning my pockets inside out and showing only my ID. I hid my fortune in a sock. Sad for you, was his response. This could be interpreted in different ways. Either he was truly sorry for what happened to me, or, more likely, he was sorry for what should have happened. A moment, and he hit me, and then nothing. I woke up in the hospital emergency room. "Mr. Thomas, you are at mercy, General. You're lucky to survive." "What about my attacker?" "Looks like he was shot by a rival gang." To hell with them. Bitsy must have sent someone to keep an eye on me. Maybe it was a good sign, but I doubt it. I'm lucky today. That's not all, the nurse continued. A good Samaritan was passing by and took you here, otherwise you might have died. Today is clearly my day. I should buy a lottery ticket. She grinned and left. 20 seconds later, Bitsy came in. And the problems continue, I said with the maximum amount of sarcasm. Jake, it wasn't supposed to go this way. Did you think they would serve me tea where they threw me? Jake, it wasn't me who threw you out, it was Dad. I'm furious with him. He says his people have gone too far. You don't understand. Remember when we met, your mom was arrogant and you told her off? Certainly. Your father is smarter, more calculating. He knew better. He waited. But when you told him you were trying to get pregnant, he was forced to act until I became his son-in-law forever. He wouldn't. Bitsy, he would. Why do you think Bunky suddenly appeared? He was in cahoots from the very beginning. I ruined everything with Banky. I was so ashamed. I tried to intimidate you. I knew it wouldn't work. What can I do? Let me go. It was one mistake. I'm so sorry. Please. No, you are just like your father. You can have whatever you want, but I only have what you allow. I finished. Let me go. This made her cry. I saw her cry evenly never before. Yes, I behaved like him. I never gave you a reason to be angry with me. I panicked. You're right, at least partially. I originally fell in love with you because you weren't susceptible to my crap, as you so eloquently call it. But then I really fell in love with you. But you betrayed me twice. It only happened once, I swear. This will never happen again. Bitsy, you sent people to our house to tell us I was a trespasser. I admit, your father egged them on, but it was you who put me out on the street, without a home, just because I stood up for my point of view. She cried again, harder this time. She was not herself and hurriedly left the room. I won't let her change my mind, I told the empty room. I know her better than she thinks. She really loves me, but she has spent too many years learning to win at any cost. The doctor was on his morning rounds. How are you feeling, Mr. Thomas? Terrible. Why do you say that? According to your chart, things are going amazingly well. Doctor, I say this because I don't have a home. When you discharge me, I will find myself on the street with $300 in my hands. Why do you think that? The reason I am here is to inform you that you are being transferred to a private facility. I was transported by 4 strong men on a gurney in an ambulance in which heart surgery could be performed. We were followed by an extremely nervous and very commanding Bitsy. I was taken to the ward. 2 doctors were already waiting for me in the room. 2. The American royal family does not receive the best care. The doctors did a quick examination. One looked after my wounds, the other was responsible for my general recovery. They explained what was available to me. My understanding is that if I decided to become a quarterback in the NFL, they would provide me with coaches until I made the team. If I had chosen a more reasonable goal, they would have provided appropriate therapy and training. Bitsy never showed up, although I could hear her commanding outside the door. I had been in the recovery center for quite some time, perhaps a month. I went from intravenous feeding to a liquid diet, then to baby formula, and finally to eating normally. They started giving me exercises to strengthen my abdominal muscles. One afternoon, my lawyer, Don Benton, came by. Don is an interesting person. I'd say he's about 75. His age gave him away, but he impressed me with his presentation of my options if I decided to get a divorce. Honestly, he didn't need to impress me that much. The first lawyer I contacted said he would not take the case against the Fontaine family, but recommended Don to me. We exchanged pleasantries, then he said, "Your wife asks you to reconsider your divorce." She almost drove me to death, a little late for kisses and hugs. She spoke to me. She's really repentant. I think you should talk to her. I looked at him. Aren't you too? I don't know what you're talking about. He looked truly puzzled. Do you work for her or for me? Ah, I understand. Given her and her family's history in recent weeks, it's a legitimate question. I'm too old and too stubborn to be bought. I work exclusively for you. The reason I think you should talk to her is because she is convinced that you both love each other, and if it weren't for her father, you could have worked things out. If it weren't for this wound, I could have run a marathon. Jake, I rarely insist, but this time, talk to your wife. Okay, arrange this for the morning. I don't want to suffer all day. This isn't fair, I said when she came into my room. What? She asked, flirtatiously turning from side to side. You look truly beautiful, Bitsy. Just looking at you makes me happy. Thank you. I spent a week trying to get that compliment. Now do me a favor, how are you feeling? Yesterday they gave me a hamburger, my first red meat. The wine was good like for Pepsi. Now tell me why you are here. Jake, I made a huge mistake. When I saw on your face how big a mistake I had made, I panicked and made an even bigger one. You already said that. How's Banks doing? Don't know. I refused to deal with him. Dad said he would fire me. I started packing my things when he retreated. You and your father scare me to death. I will have a scar for the rest of my life. She was shocked. She asked me to sit down and I nodded. I would feel sorry for her if the memories of the baby food weeks weren't so fresh in my mind. Jake, this is what I understand. You were right all along, being ruthless is wrong, and more importantly, despite my years of training, it is not who I am. I wanted to say something, but she shook her head. Listen to me, I know this is my last chance. That little company we acquired confused me. Unfortunately, I thought I finally understood Dad. When I lost the tender for the company, I decided to destroy them, knowing that I could buy the remains and restore it. I did it. But to do this, I had to offer a large sum of money to two good people, and now they hate me. They hate it with all their hearts. At first I tried to enjoy their hatred. I won, they lost. Their contempt is their way of coping with defeat. I was on a high, Dad was so proud, and again you're right. He set up this whole thing with Bunky to get me to make a mistake, and I did. You said he was calculating and would do anything to win, but I refused to believe he would do that to me. Dad insisted that I get a concession, but Banks did not give in. Suddenly he said that if I give him a bribe, he will give in. I agreed, and he relented. He and Dad set me up. Sleeping with him once seemed like nothing, until I did it. I immediately realized how wrong it was, and I couldn't hide it from you. And I'm still glad I said it. My vile father would have ratted me out himself if I had tried to hide it. But most of all, I felt so bad that I couldn't hide it. When I saw your face, I knew it was over, and I tried to intimidate you even though I knew it wouldn't work. Thank you, this helps. But I need to find a solution for Dad, don't I? I don't think so, Bitsy. He doesn't know how to lose. In my case, scorched earth became personal. I'm lucky I'll make a full recovery, but I don't think it's worth tempting fate. I've been keeping an eye on you, you know. I'm told you're working hard on your novel. How are you doing? Okay, I would say really good. Don't get me wrong, but my pain and suffering helped me write about characters who lost everything in the market crash of 1929. She tried to smile. We could find a less painful way to help you with this. I chuckled. We started going back to how she showed me she loved me. It calms me down a little. Bitsy, I don't see us together again, but I know you didn't mean to hurt me. You were just trying to make me starve. Tell me about the novel. We talked for over an hour. Not about us, just about the book and the fact that it has already been sent to the publisher. I should have received the answer soon. She stood up and asked if she could kiss me. She kissed. She then said, "The divorce will be finalized in 10 days. I have one more proposal. You will hear it tomorrow or the day after tomorrow." She held back her tears but did not cry. Having gathered her courage, she thanked me for a wonderful morning and left. Almost exactly 24 hours later, Don Benton walked in. We exchanged pleasantries, and he said, "This is weird. I have two envelopes. She and her lawyer asked to open this one first." He raised one of them, and then this one, holding up the second one. "Do you want to do it this way or the other way around? I don't like being told what to do." Her lawyer said it would be more logical to do it according to their plan. "Come on then." I wanted to get this over with as quickly as possible. He opened the first envelope and read for several minutes. Wow, wow. What's there? She changes the terms of the marriage contract. In a full settlement, if you accept, she increases the original offer by 5 zeros, from $284.54 to $28,454,000. Damn it, seriously? Dawn and I discussed this. She offered me a fortune because she felt indebted to me. Dawn laughed and said he felt terrible. He agreed to a fee of $20,000. If I had known, I would have happily taken only 30% rather than my usual 40%. He laughed, but not with amusement. I wonder what could be in the other letter. Probably a counteroffer, but let's not guess. He opened the second envelope. It contained a cover letter, just a couple of lines. Here are 2 copies of a letter from Elizabeth to you. One is handwritten, the other is typed. He handed me a handwritten version. My dear Jake, I don't know if I can atone for my 2 mistakes. If I can't, then I suggested the terms of the divorce so that you could live without financial worries. I can't get all the money at once, but it's in a trust that pays me just under $5 million a year from now until my 35th birthday. We can draw up a contract with lawyers to pay you a portion of this income. But I hope that you will accept one of the 2 alternative proposals. The first is the simplest: come back to me, just like before. I will write any agreement you want to ensure I don't repeat the mistakes that led to your divorce. The second sentence is because you are so afraid of my father and my competitive nature, which directly led to your injury. I admit I was lying a little here. Sorry. I read your novel. I see that we can live on your future income. I am ready to leave the family business forever, under any conditions that you choose. If you choose this option, I promise you that you will receive at least the same amount as you would receive in a divorce. If you want to negotiate, I will do everything possible to satisfy any of your demands. This option is difficult. Obviously, it has a buy-you effect, but that's not the reason I'm offering money. I offer them because it is the only way to show your sincerity. Another difficulty is my father. It will break his heart. I care about it, but he ruined it himself, so I can sleep in this bed. You can write something to help him understand that his intervention will not be successful. I'll be happy to sign this too. When we first met, we talked about how the love of money is the root of all troubles. I'm afraid my actions in life have always been too close to the love of money. This proposal is my chance to show my intention. I love you, not money. There is nothing I could do and nothing I could gain that is more important than getting you back and having children with you. Please give me this chance, with the hope of becoming your loving wife again. Bitsy. What do you think? Dawn asked, looking at me. She wants to come back to me. I always knew this, but I didn't know that she would offer me all this money and abandon my father. I spoke carefully. The proposals were overwhelming. Interesting. What do you think? Dawn repeated his question, but I realized that he wanted to hear my thoughts. I think I need to talk to her again. I never thought I'd think about reconciliation. How is this possible? The truth is that she allowed her father to deceive her and then tried to use the only method she thought would work to scare me into forgiving her. Her father also undermined this plan. What worries me is that I might be like a corrupt person, willing to do something just because it can get a lot of money. She thought it all through. I will get the money whether I divorce her or stay with her. A rare solution with huge financial benefits and without the risk of losses. Bitsy, I didn't think it was possible to be here and think about getting back together. You really know how to fight. But you see, this fight is different. I will give up everything to correct my mistakes. You're not playing fair, I smiled widely. You know that I am a decent person. I can be corrupt, take $30 million and leave, or I can be who I am and work to forgive and forget. I thought she would explode. She began to tremble, tears welled up in her eyes, and she waited for my answer. You're about to have a stroke, so I'd better say yes, but I have something else to say. Before I could finish speaking, she attacked me like never before. It took a while to be able to speak again. Your letter shows that you love me more than money or work, so I can say yes. I'm hesitant, but I want you to resign from your father's company. Tell him he's out of favor and you're done with him. She nodded and was about to say yes, but I interrupted her. But we have to give him the opportunity to make things right. He must win, and you are his prize. If he has to change to get you back, he will. Is it true? This man is calculating. I can't imagine how he allowed his men to miscalculate and get me injured. He told me he told them not to hurt you. They were following you in the car about a block behind you. When they saw the robber, they couldn't get to you in time. They shot him and took you to the hospital, incurring Dad's wrath. This made me wince. I thought about asking what his anger included, but decided I didn't want to know. I'd like to do that. You will tell him that he betrayed you and you don't want anything to do with him anymore. We'll wait, but I think in 6 months or maybe a year he'll start taking steps. Then you will tell him that the decision is mine, not yours. She smiled, taking in what I was saying. You're the devil. I know where this is going. Of course you do. I told you that winning at any cost is wrong. Winning at the expense of you and your family is too high a price to pay. That's what I'll tell him. His price for your return is to make your participation in the business more honest. I will also explain that I don't want to hear about his scorched earth. It may be more than he's willing to pay. She didn't say it as a bummer, but as something we would face. Bitsy, we won't control him, only ourselves. When you talk to him about returning to the company, tell him what you want and what it will cost him if he fails. So you agree? Will you cancel the divorce? I simply nodded. She was already holding the phone in her hand. Dad, we need to meet. She looked at her watch. Name a place. Let's have lunch. Pause. No, right now. Pause. No, right now. Pause. See you. Well, that was quick. I will return from lunch as an unemployed orphan. I hope you will take care of me. I made this promise to you several years ago. You know you can count on me. My life looked pretty bleak for a while. Suddenly, everything changed. Bitsy actually came back to the rehab center where I was in tears. She broke her father's heart. She showed no mercy or emotion exactly as he taught her. Now that I had a permanent roommate again who could hire whatever help we needed, I left rehab and moved back to our penthouse. A month later, my novel was published and soon after became a bestseller. I was wrong about how long her father would wait. Bitsy stayed in touch with her mother, and just 7 weeks after we returned, she told her she might be pregnant. Her father called that evening. Bitsy looked at the ringing phone, smiled, and said, "That's it." "Hello," formal and cool tone. "It wasn't me who hurt you. It's not me who will fulfill your requests." The conversation was over. I smiled. Who was it? He's proud. How long do you think it will be before? She was interrupted by my phone ringing. "Hi, Tom," he asked if we could meet. "With pleasure." "Where and when?" He suggested lunch, I agreed, and the conversation ended. We met for lunch and spoke as equals for the first time. It was difficult for him. I didn't get angry, I didn't make demands, I just talked to him. "Tom, we knew you would call us and Bitsy would be so happy to be back with the family. I don't think she's going back to work anytime soon. She has a doctor's appointment soon to confirm the pregnancy, and then we'll see what the doctor says." "Why are you making my life so easy?" "Tom, you don't know me. I'm not one of those people who thinks that being cool is the way to get your way. If I keep Bitsy away from you, she will suffer. I don't want this, and I don't need your manipulation anymore." This made him grin. "My manipulation?" "Yes, all this is feigned good nature, but in reality you despise me. Either you love me or you don't. Honestly, I don't care. I will say one thing. You deliberately put me in a situation that almost cost me my life. So if you want us to be enemies to the end, I don't care. Well, I don't think. See, that's what I'm talking about, Tom. I really don't care about all your beautiful speeches. I heard them. You've already shown that you think about me. Now you will have to show that you have changed your mind or not. Like I said, I don't care. About? You're putting me in a difficult position. What do you want from me? I want a father-in-law. This may mean we become friends, or it may not. But it definitely means that we will be sincerely polite and kind to each other. Maybe we'll try to get to know each other and see if we want to be friends. Everything depends on you. Don't you have any demands? If I give Bitsy his blessing to return to work with you, I will have to trust you. I can't think of anything you can do to make me trust you, so why should I make demands? Would you like to play golf with me on Saturday? Certainly. This is a public event in a decent area. I winked at him to show that I was joking. If you're honest with me, it might be easier than I imagine. Oh, you can count on it. And Tom, I'll be honest with Bitsy. She and I work on this every day. I won't try to manipulate her. I'll tell her what we discussed and what I think about it. This makes everything harder, he smiled widely. I'm not sure my skills are good enough to lead honest conversations that are out of my control. You can force me to be honest with you. We both laughed. That laugh was the start of a good journey. We never became real friends, but we maintained truly friendly relations. Bitsy was delighted with my conversation with her father. I knew you would be honest, and it could make a difference. Let's see. We're getting closer to our 35th anniversary. Our son, Jacob Jr., is 9 years old, his sister Judy is 7, and his other sister, Sandra Sandy, is 4. Significantly, Thomas Fontaine will be 65 years old in 6 months and will step down as chairman of the board. I like the succession plan. Now the chairman of the board and the CEO of the company will be separated. He will not be replaced. The position will be shared. Bitsy will become non-executive chairman of the board, and the CEO will be a woman, Loretta Aldridge. Tom has been preparing her for this job for the past couple of years. Bitsy returned to work. Even during her pregnancy, she maintained her presence, but only as a special assistant to the CEO. Her father gave her free rein, and she changed the company culture. During those 10 years, Bitsy rarely worked more than 40 hours a week, usually 20 or so. Loretta and her husband John are good friends of ours. They are several years older than us, but we often spend time together. Loretta plans to keep Bitsy as a special assistant, even though this will make Bitsy both her subordinate and her boss. Neither of them seem to care. Tom has changed the most during this time. He started spending a lot of time with his wife, and they fell in love again. When this happened, they became good grandparents. The changes in the company were noticeable. Growth slowed, but profitability remained. Bitsy and I put her mistake behind us the day we got back together. Although we didn't think of it that way, her changes in her relationship with her father and the company showed how strong her attachment was to me and our 3 little Thomases. There were difficulties in the company, but this did not affect us in any way. If one of the children had a fever, the mother stayed at home with him. Sometimes she called work, sometimes she didn't. One day I asked her about this. Her answer was, I teach the whole company that you can be successful and still be human. This is my role. Playing my role helps everyone understand that I'm not joking. What about them? Doesn't your absence give them the opportunity to do whatever they want? Like me, they have their roles. They are vital to the company. They have to find the balance themselves. They are wonderful people. They will be able to find a mutually beneficial solution. I knew she was right. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think. Click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click to the next